Hey, Kate, what did you eat last night?
I made a carrot cake rice pudding in the Instant Pot.
Well, that sounds delightful.
Doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah. So, I don't know if it was delightful. It really didn't deliver on either being a carrot cake or a rice pudding, so it didn't taste enough like either of those things. But if you warmed it up and put some cream and extra cinnamon sugar on it, it was delicious, but it felt still more like a porridge or a breakfast dish. It didn't have the creaminess of rice pudding. It was like a little dry and funky, so it didn't have that lovely creamy thing that I like about the texture of rice pudding. And even though I added a bunch of extra spices, it didn't resemble carrot cake in much of a way, except that it had shreds of carrot and coconut in it. So it was sort of crunchy, which is not something it turns out I'm looking for in rice pudding either. And so it didn't really feel like either one of those. But if you didn't know it was supposed to be that and someone just served it to you warm with cream and cinnamon sugar on it, you'd be like, what a delicious thing this is.
Interesting.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think I'll make it again.
Well, Kate, that dessert sounds lovely if I had no idea what was coming at me.
Yeah, I think you would. It is. And how about you? What did you eat last night?
I made pho.
Pho!
Inspired by my travels to Vietnam. I had spent a lot of time putting together a broth, and I really wanted to find a good one, work with it. So you know how they're mostly made of beef bones or beef broth, right? Mm-hmm. So I made a fish broth, and for the first time I worked with bonito flakes. So I basically started with hot water. Obviously, I put in that no beef veg base by Better Than Bouillon. I did that, and then you soak the bonito flakes in that, and you simmer it for a little bit, and it gets really infused, obviously, with fish flavor. And I can't tell you how terribly my apartment stank. Stank or stunk? I can't remember, but it was terrible. Sure. And then I had to run all that stuff right down to the trash can right away. And then after that, I put in onion, ginger, garlic, and salt. And then I put that in the broth and let it simmer. And then I strained all that out. By the time that was done, I felt like I had a very hearty, definitely a fish-focused broth. And, you know, the great thing I love about this is I made this broth. It's really tasty. So I made a bunch of it, and then I froze it. So now I have all these little versions of broth, little containers of broth to bring out whenever I want a little bit of soup. And then when I made it, what I put on this one is I put red peppers, I put carrots, sprouts, bok choy, shiitake mushrooms, and then found some thin rice noodles. And then I cut a red chili. I sliced that. I threw in parsley, basil, cilantro, and a hard-boiled egg. And it was so tasty.
That sounds delightful. I mean, except for the fact that I would hate it. But like, if you like those things, that sounds delightful.
I was thinking of you after I made the fish broth. I'm like, Kate would not be loving this.
Dude, you know what I thought you were going to say? That you actually made fish broth out of bones.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, wow, can you imagine how many fish you'd have to eat to amass enough bones to make fish stock out of?
Kate, I really don't want to think, but I'm thinking it's a lot. My God.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved it because it's one of those things I ate. And the minute I ate it, I was like, how have I not been doing this for years? It's so hearty, so flavorful. And it's also one of those dishes I was patting myself on the back a little bit because I was just so pleased with myself because I put it together from a bunch of different traditional pho broths, right? Because they're all like, go to their butcher and get your beef bones and let them marinate. And I was like, oh, that's not happening. So I just loved it. And now I have this broth that you just pull out to frost. And then really, you know, you can put in whatever you have in your fridge sometimes. So it can really be this really lovely soup with the rice noodles with whatever fresh vegetables that you want to use up. So it's really, really wonderful. I'm so excited.
That's lovely. Well done.
Thank you. Welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Rick.
And I'm Kate.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others.
Before we go any further, please remember, do your due diligence, review us, rate us. We love you for it. People find us because of it.
Yes, please, especially now in a time when people have time. We're hearing a lot about how people aren't listening to podcasts as much, so please spread the word.
And as always, follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and remember our email. If you have any suggestions or thoughts you want to share with us, you won't believe what I ate at gmail.com. Season 5 of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night is brought to you by Smart Building Technologies, a leading provider of building automation solutions, bringing smart technologies along with energy savings to the workplace. Find out more at smartbuildingtech.com. That's smartbuildingtech.com. We're so excited about today's episode. You know what we have for you? We have
Tapas.
That's right. Well, not actual tapas, but we have a bunch of tiny little clips that we are super, super excited about sharing. Now, as longtime listeners of the podcast, you may know that we went on a little trip for Kate's birthday last year and to Brussels and
Bruges.
And Bruges. And we made several episodes out of that. The first clip you are going to hear is from the balcony of my home in Washington, D.C. Kate came to D.C. prior to us leaving for Belgium, and we had this lovely, lovely night of cheese on my balcony.
So, y'all, this trip is my birthday trip, and so...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kate. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. I hope you all sang along with that. If not, please rewind and do. Thank you so much. So yes, it's a significant birthday, and so here I am in DC, and at the moment we have not yet gone to Belgium because I just arrived this afternoon in DC, and I've been here like an hour and a half or something, and we are out here on Rick's patio, his balcony, and we're having the most amazing little spread before we go out to actual dinner. So the first thing he made me is a Manhattan, which was made with excellent bourbon, excellent vermouth, and really delicious bitters. So the first one was a combination of cherry bitters and orange bitters. And the second one was chocolate bitters, which is weird. It doesn't exactly taste like a Manhattan anymore, but I don't care. It's so delicious. And we set the orange peel juice on fire, like the oil from the orange peel, not the peel itself. And it's super, super delicious. And then he got these amazing cheeses. So we're having this beautiful little cheese plate.
The first one we have is the Rogue River Blue Cheese, which, if you remember from our page, it was quite a hubbub of discussion that it was voted. Go ahead, voted
somehow the best cheese in the world. In the world.
And when I was on the phone with Kate, I was like, oh, let's see if Safeway has it. And I meant it as a joke because Safeway never has anything nice. And so, but there it was in the little bin. I'm like, I bought it. I bought the cheese.
And it's wrapped in what appears to be a grape leaf. I haven't examined what it is. It's some kind of leaves. Did you taste one? Did it have a flavor?
I know I ate it, but I didn't feel
it didn't have a flavor. It's wrapped in leaves. And we like it a lot because it's both flavorful and unbelievably creamy.
Super creamy. And the blue cheese has just that right amount of hit that you just get enough of it and you want more and you're not overwhelmed by the blooch.
Totally. You can't be overwhelmed by the blooch. And then depending on what you've just had either to eat or drink right before it, it tastes different, which is always, I guess, a thing about good cheese. But sometimes it's sweet. Like at one point we're like, oh, it's also sweet. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on with the blooch.
And then we have this other cheese I picked up because Safeway was having a banner week. I told Kate when I was on the phone with her, I walked into Safeway, and their cheese thing was just stocked to the rim. Stocked. So I got this other one called Les Picots, and it's French, yeah?
Yeah,
and it's
I guess. Yeah.
Goat cheese. And all it says is, well, the main thing it says is soft ripened cheese.
So all we knew about it was that it was soft ripened cheese. So it looks like a brie or something, but really runny and soft and gorgeous. And so because I just arrived and it's been stressful, I've been sitting here with my feet up. And Rick is not only bringing everything out to serve me, he's actually like swiping the cheese on the crackers for me and handing them to me like I'm the queen. And so he handed it to me and I tasted it and I was like, wait, is this goat cheese? And he was like, I don't know. All it says is soft, ripened cheese. So I looked at the container, and sure enough, it doesn't say. But then if you examine it carefully, there's a picture of what can only be a goat with, like, horns next to the name. So it is clearly goat cheese. It has that grassy taste, but it's super soft and creamy and delicious. So the next installment in your Small Plates episode is when Rick and his sister Helen and I went to a wonderful restaurant by the amazing, spectacular Jose Andres in DC before we went on our trip. Enjoy.
So we like to keep you updated on Jose Andres because we love him.
We love him, and we're so grateful for all the work he does in the world.
Feeding people that need it.
Mm-hmm. Particularly when certain governments don't help.
So Kate was in D.C. before we left town, so we went to his restaurant called Oyama, which is just, it's called Oyama Cucina, and it's really the cutest little restaurant. Lots of butterflies all along the walls, everywhere. It's really well designed.
Yeah, the back room where we were in was really beautiful decor, really pretty, nice lighting.
And it just, we sort of call it a Mexican, upscale Mexican, probably, or would you call it that?
Mid-level. I don't know if I call it upscale.
Okay, mid-level. Yeah.
Nice. But more like authentic Mexican as compared to like just a regular taco and burrito American Mexican place. It was more like legit Mexican. Yeah.
And I got I started with one of their margaritas because I've always loved their margaritas there. It comes in a small glass. It's got this really beautiful salt around the edge and with a really good tequila. And they use fresh lime juice. That's one of the things that makes it so special is they just have someone there squeezing lime juice all day long for their margaritas. And then one of the first things I had this thing that was called a Tamale De Kamote. It was this really, really, really great tamale. It was sweet potato tamale filled with black beans. It was served with a guajito chili salsa, Mexican crema, queso fresco, and pumpkin seeds on top. And the really great thing is it wasn't wrapped in an entire tamale skin. The tamale skin was just on the bottom. So you didn't have to mess with the unfolding of it. So you basically got to eat it with a fork right off of the top, like it was of the top of the bottom skin of the tamale, like it was butter. And just the combination of that sweet potato and that fresca, the crema. Oh, so good.
It looked delicious.
Yeah.
The chips were really, really good.
All right. We had
clearly house-made chips. And the salsa was delicious and smoky. It was a little spicy. It wasn't crazy spicy, but my favorite thing about it was that it was smoky. I'm guessing there was chipotle involved in that.
Right.
And then the guacamole was delicious. It's the kind they bring to you in the giant, like, what is the name for it? The giant mortar and pestle, but it has a name it has a Mexican name for the big, like, pumice or granite thing with feet, that they bring to the table. So it was very tasty. And I had it was a quesadilla that they called chicharron or chicharrones, but it wasn't really because it was crispy pork belly, and chicharrones I think is actually the skin, and it clearly wasn't that, but it had that delicious crispy texture because pork belly sometimes I don't like. A lot of people like about pork belly that it has pieces of really tender fat, and that's considered part of the delicacy of it. And I don't care for it particularly. So when it's rendered out and the whole thing is really crispy, it's delicious. And it had, I don't know, some delicious salsa in it as well. It was incredibly rich. So luckily Helen helped me with that. That was really yummy.
Then I finished off with this round of, I think it was called a plantain empanada. Basically, they look like tiny empanadas, but the outside of the skin was made out of plantains. And then they were stuffed with refried beans and a really light chili sauce, and I believe a little bit Mexican crema. And then they came with this sauce on the side. It was this dark rich sauce, which was, you remember, it was molasses and... Chili and molasses.
It was weird tasting.
Yeah,
just by itself. It was very unusual.
And it went so well with the plantains.
Yeah. They seemed to me more like a croquette than they did an empanada, because I think of an empanada as having crust. And the plantain was the outside, a potato croquette.
Yeah,
because that one I tasted. I regret that I didn't taste the tamale, but yeah, those were super tasty.
And it's that whole idea when all those flavors of Mexican food are just blended so beautifully and so wonderfully, and I feel like when nothing's so overpowering, that I really just love it. It's at its best, and he's just so skilled at that in all of his restaurants.
Yeah, and I'm a big mole fan, so we also got these beautifully crispy roasted fingerling potatoes with mole. It was also served with a garlic crema, and those were super tasty.
Yeah.
We also learned something interesting at this meal because Helen, Rick's sister Helen, who was with us, had this shrimp dish. I don't remember what it was. It looked like a caldo. It looked like a soup of some kind with shrimp in it, which she also really enjoyed. But it had those little teeny, really spicy red peppers in it, chilies, and she ate one.
By accident.
And she was just in dire trouble. She was having a rough time of it.
She couldn't eat. She was getting up. She was trying to grab a tissue.
She was coughing. She had to leave the table. She had to go to the restroom. And so then the server comes over.
We talked about asking for milk, something.
Right. And I think when she went to the restroom, she did ask for milk, but I think maybe they didn't have it. But then the server comes over later and he hands her
sugar.
A sugar packet.
And she's like, what? And he's like, just have it. It'll help. And we were all like, what? Really?
And he said, yeah, the sugar helps with the burn of the capsaicin. And I said, we'd always heard milk and dairy and fat. Because as you know, if you've listened to our hot sauce episode, that is certainly the prevailing wisdom. And that's what we see all over the place. And this guy was like, no, sugar. And Helen said it really worked.
Yeah, super quick. She just opened the packet, chugged it, and was able to sit back down at the table.
Yeah, so good tip for anyone. Next time you burn your mouth on chili peppers, try a little sugar. I haven't had occasion to try it yet, but interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, great restaurant. Highly recommended.
Highly recommended. And in general, whenever you can support a restaurant, hey, Jose Andres, we should all just be doing it.
Totally, right.
So we did a critique of the airport lounge. It was very fun. Kate has a fancy pass, so she got us into an airport lounge.
We were lucky. We got in, yeah. So as part of a credit card that I have a lounge pass for a lounge series called Priority Pass Lounges, which primarily are only for international travel. I think there are a few domestic ones, but I rarely get to use it domestically. So I'm always really excited when I'm traveling internationally, particularly if I can bring a guest. And we
that was me.
Partake in the lounge. That's right. It's only ever been my mom up till now. So it was awesome. So on our way to Bruges and Brussels, we flew through London. And so in Dulles, in the departure lounge, we ended up in the Turkish Airways lounge. That was the one that supported the Priority Pass, because the British Airways people wouldn't let us in.
No.
The Turkish Airways people almost didn't let us in, but we snuck in under the wire.
Literally.
Such a busy time that they saved the space for their real people who actually are like fancy pants airline flyers.
And someone was so nice. She's like, you two are the last. You go in.
Yes, it was so cool. And so it's a lovely lounge.
Yeah.
And they had a really lovely selection. And a bar. So I had nice champagne. That was one thing. And it was real champagne. It wasn't Prosecco or Cava. It was actual champagne. And it was very tasty. And you had a gin and tonic, I think, right? Yeah, which was fine. And they had really good hummus and baba ganoush and pita.
And yes, that was all. I had the hummus, and then they basically had other little cubes of cheese, which at that point is all I wanted to eat. I looked at the entire bar of all the other tasty salads they have, and I'm like, I just don't want it.
And I did. They had like a beautiful quinoa salad, red quinoa, and they had a farro salad, and they had a black lentil salad.
Yeah.
And they were all really tasty. They all needed salt, in my opinion, but they were all really good.
Yeah. They really take sort of airport food to a whole new level, those lounges. That's why it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
So if you do have the ability to get one of those passes with your card, it would be a really great thing. or to even buy them separately for when you travel.
And I think it depends, because sometimes the Priority Pass lounge is its own lounge, and sometimes they hook onto an airline. And I think Turkish Airways is just known for having good quality stuff also. Because I've been in some of these Priority Pass lounges that are nowhere near as nice as the Turkish Airways.
The Turkish lounge is definitely one of the best lounges I've been in as far as options for food.
It was really nice. Oh, and I had this little meatball. It was like a lamb and beef meatball, I think, with a yogurt sauce or something.
Right.
And it was really tasty. It was really good.
And then I go into my bag and I pull out a plastic baggie. And Kate says, "What are you doing with that?" And I was like, "I'm going to take some snacks with me on the plane," which you're not supposed to do from the lounges. But, I'm a rebel. So I filled up on pretzels and wasabi peas.
So clever, because he wasn't sure what he was going to get on the plane. And so there we go. Yeah, so we're a fan. And then during the layover, we ended up with a layover in Heathrow, and we only had, I'm going to say 20 minutes in the lounge.
Yeah.
And this is a lounge that I've been to a number of times before in Heathrow, and it's tiny, and it's always super packed. So we were really lucky because we got seats.
And where were our seats?
Right by the buffet.
Literally across from the buffet.
And one of my favorite things in England is English bacon. If you listen to this podcast, you know that about me, that English bacon is my favorite thing. And it was breakfast time, and I was like, oh my God, please may they have bacon. Please may they have bacon. And they did. So I had the most ridiculous pile of English bacon, back bacon, and I made a little bacon sandwich to eat on the plane. It was so satisfying and so tasty, and it was all I needed, and it made me really happy.
Cut to the scene where Kate says, "I wish I could take a sandwich with me to go on the plane." Rick pulls into his bag and pulls out yet another plastic bag.
He's the best. So yeah, I got my little sandwich on the plane because Rick had an extra baggie.
Which I don't even remember seeing you eat. It was like was it even a 40-minute flight?
It was a 40-minute flight
and
from London to Brussels.
And I'm like, when did you eat the sandwich?
And it was when the lady was doing the demonstration about the seatbelt. So you must have been trying to study how the seatbelts work.
I was.
Yeah.
I was into watching her tie that double bow.
Exactly. That was it. It's called a bacon buddy. It's because they didn't have any bread out initially, but then they had bread, and I was like, and it was just a little piece of, I don't know what it was. It was sort of like a cross between bread and an English muffin, really.
Yeah.
Little white bread type thing, and you have to put butter on it. And then bacon, and that's it. So it's white bread or toast and butter and bacon, and that's a bacon buddy. It's a bacon sandwich, and it's a classic English thing. And oh my goodness, it made me so incredibly happy.
The main thing I had sitting right next to all of the delicious bacon and sausage were these things called Veggie sausages. And they basically look like sausages, but they are clearly just vegetables that had been shredded up and ground up a little bit and then rolled and shaped to look like a sausage. And I wasn't particularly hungry, but I thought I very rarely see something like that so special, particularly in an airport lounge. Mm-hmm. And I tried it. It was just so good because you could taste the spinach in it. You could taste the carrot in it. I think it had to be baked. It didn't particularly look fried.
It was. It looked like it had breadcrumbs and then it had been baked because it was more like a sausage patty. It didn't have a casing.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of a sausage patty, but it looked more like a fish stick than anything else.
It did look like a fish stick, yeah.
So it had that kind of quality, and I would agree it looked baked. I didn't taste it, but it looked like it was too delicate to have been fried.
And I'm also just so grateful when you get something other than, fruit.
Yes.
Or
just an English muffin.
Yeah, or a big thing for vegetarians anywhere you go is like a portobello mushroom sandwich or burger.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see different flavors in a totally different shape too.
Yeah.
And something that resembled a breakfast sausage.
Totally, yeah. And if we'd wanted it, there was really nice scrambled eggs that looked really fresh and tasty. We just weren't. I was about to say we weren't that hungry, but that didn't stop me from eating quite a bit of bacon. I'm like, I'm not eating any eggs. Just give me all the bacon.
Now, we know you've been waiting for it with all of our travels. We have our first review of airplane food. So this is from the meal that we had when we left Dulles on our way to Heathrow.
So, Rick, what are you eating right now?
I am eating the vegetarian special on the British Airways flight over to London.
And what do you have?
I'm not sure. There's rice There's vegetables. It looks like mushrooms, carrots, a little bit pepper, rice, and some type of odd dark sauce.
Oh, really?
Yes. I would not say it's completely terrible, but it is not dry.
Okay.
It's moist.
Okay, that's good. Is it soy sauce?
There's definitely some soy sauce in there. It's very sweet, but it also oddly has no flavor. Yeah.
Does it need salt?
Yes. So actually, before I tasted it, I just took the chance that it was going to need the entire packet of salt and pepper, so I poured that on.
You didn't even taste it?
No.
That's hilarious.
So I just thought, I'll go with it.
And I have to say, from looking at it, I can see why you made that choice, because it is not the most visually appealing dish I've ever seen. It looks kind of sad.
Looks a little like vomit.
Yeah. Yeah, it smells good, though, actually.
I would agree. Have a little side salad, a little piece of bread, and a nice little piece of chocolate cake. The bread and the chocolate cake will be my favorite things.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll check back in.
Now, Kate, you might find that surprising, but none of the vegetables are cooked to temperature.
Oh.
They're all, what's the word? Mush.
Oh, no. That's a darn shame. Wow.
Hey, Kate, what are you eating tonight?
Well, shockingly, I too am dining on the British Airways coach class meal. And I am drinking, actually, so our flight attendants are totally delightful. And
They're really the best.
Every time we ask for wine, they give us 2. So I had red wine to start with when we got on the plane, and now I switched to white because it goes with my meal, and it's so much better. Mm-hmm. So much better than the red.
Okay.
So I got what was supposed to be a chicken casserole. It's not a casserole, but it's some chicken and some kind of really sort of gelatinous brown gravy with mashed potatoes. It tastes much better than it looks.
And it smelled good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's all right. The chicken is fine. It's not like super dry or anything. I have like a little processed cheese thing, like a little like Laughing Cow type cheese with crackers, which is delightful. And we have a different dessert. Mine is a marvelous malted chocolate brownie pot.
Looks super cute.
It's a little pot de creme, sort of, with the brownie underneath it. I find it fascinating that the vegetarian option that you got did not include the cheese or the, and we had a different dessert, which is also weird. I wonder if yours was vegan.
I did not choose vegan, that I can guarantee you.
But I wonder if they just only have it, yeah.
I'll have to look at the wrapping. Mm-hmm. But also, they wouldn't have served cheese on a vegetarian, most likely.
Why?
I think I don't know, because
because of the rennet?
They also, yes, they also have on the choices, they also had, what is the vegetarian without milk, like lacto?
Yeah, ovo-lacto.
Ovo-lacto vegetarian. That is an option, too. So that's weird.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. The issue is that the person in front of me, when he sits down, knocks everything into my lap. So there's that.
Now, you did spot the other choice meal.
Yes, there was also pasta, which looks really good, but we have a sneaking suspicion would not, as Rick said, would not be al dente. Would probably be a little mush-tastic.
Yes, what is that in Italian?
Mush-tastica.
Now, these final clips you're going to hear are from my travels to Vietnam last year. I had this really amazing tour guide. So knowledgeable, so sweet. So he's going to take us through the history of spring rolls in Vietnam. So who are you and what do you do?
My name is Hai. I'm from Vietnam and I'm a tour guide.
And where are we now?
We are on the way back from Ninh Bình province to Hanoi.
So Hai, on this trip, we have made a lot of spring rolls. So what's the idea behind spring rolls?
We've been eating and making spring rolls for a long time, for generations, so we don't know exactly when it was invented. But what we knew that our ancestors said from after the Lunar New Year, the celebration would have a lot of leftover food from glass noodle, or we call vermicelli, from carrot, onion, mushroom, and meat. So if we just keep eating them separately like the proper dishes during our Lunar New Year, it might be boring. So our ancestors just came up with an idea that why don't they just chop them all smaller, mix them up, and use the rice paper just to wrap them, either deep fried or eat them raw or eat them with already pre-cooked things inside. Could be the better idea, and dip it with the fish sauce. And it turned out a great idea. And people just start eating spring rolls and making spring rolls from that time because of that. So in general, it starts from all the leftover food from Lunar New Year that we don't want to waste the food.
Oh, neat. And what's the dipping sauce that usually accompanies them? It's fish sauce, or isn't there's another one, yeah?
It's actually the combination of fish sauce, a little bit of sugar, again, about feng shui and balance of everything. Chili, vinegar, or you can add in lime and garlic. Okay. So you need to have that many kind of elements to have the best like dipping sauce bowl. Okay. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, there's our Tapas episode. As always, thanks so much for listening. Remember, rate, review us.
Thank you. Bye.